She then said that the documents would be ready on Wednesday and asked me to let me know when I wanted them to be served. I told her to wait a little because Lee was in bad shape. I made a promise of sorts to Milt. The kids decided to go to school even though Big Al's death and his outburst the week before was big news. I was left alone and decided to work, working half a day for the army. For 2 or 3 hours, I went about my business. Then I picked up the girls from school after their extra classes. We ate pizza. It was something I could make myself, and they loved my pizza. We had a good evening, but they both asked before going to bed whether their mother would be back. I answered this question honestly. I don't think we will have the same agreements as before. I can't say what the future will bring, but I don't see us going back to the way things were. Something else awaits us, but we both will always love you both. Milt called on Tuesday. Ellen also called. They wanted to meet. I said I would come to Starbucks. As we grabbed our drinks, Milt said he had contacted a marriage counselor and asked me to get involved with Lee. Ellen said that if we divorce on the grounds of adultery, the court will most likely still order counseling. Okay, I said, but I won't lie. If we really get into this and go deeper, I still don't see it helping her. Ellen said, we are not asking you to lie. Just move slowly, listen to the psychologist, talk to Lee. Otherwise, I think she will have big problems. Big Al's accident seemed to scare her. We didn't tell her you were there. The first session was scheduled for the following Monday at 10 in the morning. I arrived promptly at 10, not wanting to wait in the same room as Lee. The consultant was Sylvia Price, a psychologist and certified marriage and family counselor. This is a woman of about 50, slightly plump, but pleasant. She led us into her office. Until this moment, Lee and I had not spoken. She looked unwell, was pale, and constantly rubbed her hands. Dr. Price informed us of the nature of her practice, which includes working with cases of adultery. She asked me what my goal was in counseling. I would like to move forward in life. I hope to remain a good father to my children, but I do not believe that reconciliation in marriage is possible. Lee, your goals. I want my old life back. It may not happen, but I would like to remain Marty's wife, even if things don't have to be the same. Dr. Price looked at each of us. As I understand the situation, Lee went to Miami for a work conference, where she met a man she knew from university, and they spent several nights together. The man was well known, and the two were publicly linked. Is that why we are here? Lee said, yes. I didn't believe that. My relationship in Miami would become public knowledge. I thought it would only be for the time I was away from my family. Dr. Price asked, if that's true, why did you go dancing with Mr. Johnson? You must have known that he was a famous person. I thought it would be fun. It was not near the hotel. Actually, it was fun. But you knew that your colleagues would find out about your relationship and, of course, you understood that Marty would soon find out about it. Perhaps not as quickly as he did in reality. Let's leave that aside for now. Fine. Marty, could you explain why you are so sure that the marriage is over? I looked straight at Lee. Because Lee was the only person in this world that I loved and trusted the most. So when I saw that she was ready to betray me so easily and openly, I was devastated. My grandparents died in an accident. I felt bad and in pain for a long time. But that doesn't compare to this. Nothing. I would never, ever put myself in a position to be crushed like that. If Lee could do this to me, then anyone could do it. I could never give her or anyone that kind of power again. Lee was openly sobbing as I said this. I wanted to say that I would never trust her. How do you feel seeing her in this state? I'm just sad and also very angry. It was so blatantly cruel to me and to our children too. Even if it was done out of stupidity without the desire to cause pain, it was so bad. And for what? 3 nights with some stud you wanted in college? I looked straight at her when I asked this. Lee sobbed. No, I don't know why I did it. Dr. Price said, calm down, Lee. Is it true that you had sexual feelings for Mr. Johnson when you were in college? Yes. He was a big, handsome, and famous guy. He then pestered me, but I was with Marty, and I said no. I asked, "Then why did you say yes in Miami?" For several months leading up to this, I felt a little out of touch. We've all been so busy. I was excited to spend a few days in Miami and thought it might rejuvenate me. But as soon as I got there, I saw Larry. He hugged me tightly, and I realized that I would not push him away if he wanted me. Everything was so fast. I can't understand it. I said, "We had great sex the night before you left, didn't we? Or were you pretending?" No, it was all for real. It made me tingle the entire flight. Crap, I feel so bad. Lee was crying again. My tears flowed too, but my boiling anger also returned. I didn't believe I could hold him back, so I got up and went to the outer office. I was about to hit the furniture when Dr. Price came out. "Why don't you go down to the men's room for a minute? I can talk to Lee alone. Then I can talk privately with you." That's exactly what I did. The two of them spent about 15 minutes together. Lee came out, no longer crying. "Sorry, Marty." On that note, she left. Dr. Price asked me, "Marty, how do you feel about Mr. Johnson's death? You know, I was there and saw him die, and I was happy that he died. I could have killed him myself, but he was shot down first. I think it's ugly, but it's true. And now? The same thing. Maybe even worse. This guy ruined my whole life because of some bullshit. I felt cheated that I couldn't kill him. Why does Lee's adventure with Larry mean the destruction of your entire life? I was a family man, nothing more." What I said about betrayal, I will never get over it. I can't imagine meeting anyone I can trust. Lee just broke it, but only a few days have passed. Let me ask you, have you thought about how good the sex was between Lee and Larry? Yes. I saw on YouTube that they absolutely lusted after each other. And how did you feel about it? Betrayal. This was the worst possible betrayal. Lee, no matter what happens, she will always be able to remember her fantastic sex-soaked affair. If we had stayed married, I would have always believed that she was thinking about him while we had sex. You know, I want to destroy this memory for her, and I fully intend to do so. This is the least I can do. Tough position. This is a woman you deeply love. In the past, I really loved her deeply, which is why it hurts me so much. She gutted me. This ended the session. She asked me to think about what living arrangements could be made if we separated. History Lee. I was given the task of presenting the facts about Miami and why I was so weak. I also outlined how reconciliation could happen between Marty and me. Before going to Miami, I felt out of place, not enjoying the things I used to love. Work has become a routine. Family life was also routine. This has been going on for several months now. I had a vague feeling of stagnation. I was looking forward to going to Miami. One guy at work, Brady Bean, has been harassing me ever since he transferred to our office. I easily pushed him away for months, treating him like a buffoon. This did not discourage him. He was not Adonis, but he was good-looking and had a cheerful disposition. I was not offended when he continued to pursue me. When we realized that we would both go to Miami, he began to play on this as an opportunity to sleep without any reproaches. I let him know that I was not interested, but I knew that I would not leave him indifferent and was flattered. I thought about his scenario, but I would never have sex with him. Too risky, even if he were super attractive, which he wasn't. But at our hotel when we were checking in, Larry appeared. He was definitely super attractive. He hugged me, quite energetically, and I was immediately taken aback. I realized that he could get me in Miami if he went for it. He also understood this because he immediately went for it. He took me by the hand, took me aside for a minute, and asked if Marty was with me. When I said no, he said he had a hotel room and would be there until Friday. He just said that he wants me and knows that I want him. I agreed to go to dinner with him. I can't fully explain why I became such an easy target. A slut. Marty and I had great sex the night before. I was still on edge, and so was Larry. It's not close to home free passage, I thought. I never once thought about Marty and what might happen if he found out I cheated. At least I can't remember thinking about it, but I should have. If I had met Larry in Virginia, I'm sure I could have turned him down. But I told myself that for a few days I found myself in another world. At dinner, Larry and I both knew we would go straight back to his room. We skipped dessert. As soon as the door closed behind us, Larry pulled me close, kissed me, and we were off to the races. We both just took off our clothes. I didn't think about anything except his beautiful body. We were both excited. There was no foreplay. He carried me to his bed and threw me on it, and he had me long and hard. After some time, having experienced numerous climaxes, I felt him reach the finish line. I lost consciousness. He woke me up by kissing me. We moved on to the second round. This continued the next morning. I missed breakfast with the team and barely made it to the meeting. I was sexually satisfied, and I was sure they all knew it, getting a few sideways glances. But there were no direct comments. I thought that one of them might call Marty, but I dismissed the thought. They don't know anything, they just guess. Sex with Larry was the best experience of my life. I think it was a combination of me being away from home and not having to rush home to my family, and his muscular, smooth body. Besides, he seemed to want me as much as I wanted him. He could have had almost any woman, but he was with me. My lust for him was completely irresistible. After a meeting at work, I called him. We went straight to his room, had sex for 2 hours, then ordered room service. Then we did it some more. The morning brought the same sidelong glances. I was a little worried, but I met Larry in his room at 5 in the evening, and we stayed in bed until 8. The sex was still amazing, but it was no longer as mind-blowing as on the first night, or the second one. They brought us food to our room, and then he told me to dress more decently. We'll go dancing. This is what we did. That's how I got on YouTube. I recently watched our video on YouTube, already knowing that Marty had watched it that same evening. I understood what he could see. He would see his loving wife openly, publicly lusting after another man. After finishing the dance, we returned to the hotel and had sex again. The next morning, I had a flight. When I woke up, Larry and I had sex, took inch and got dressed. I had breakfast in his room. Then she returned to hers to pack her things. My roommate, Cindy, said I was dancing on YouTube and said it was spicy. I was seized with horror, from which I almost died. I realized that I was finished. And then I met Bart Kovacs, Marty's good friend, when we got on the bus to go to the airport. I asked him if Marty had called. While I was in Miami, Marty and I did not contact each other. I didn't check my phone, but it turned out that it called every evening and went to voicemail. Bart told me that Marty had seen me dance on YouTube and that he knew that I spent every night with Larry. I was speechless. The flight home was terrible. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I was sitting by the window and an unfamiliar guy was sitting on the next seat. I knew Larry was on the flight, but I didn't see him. I got off the flight, but I still didn't see Larry, and when I got my luggage, he came up to me and asked if I was going to be okay. I said it would probably never be good again. He looked depressed. I didn't think about the fact that Marty would pick me up, and I stood in line for a taxi. When I got into the taxi, the dispatcher put Larry in it too. We went to places located close to each other. In the taxi, Larry said that he was sorry he did that to YouTube. He just didn't think of it. I said I didn't really want to talk and asked the taxi driver to drop Larry off first. I went home and couldn't get into the house. When Marty opened the door, I saw how devastated and angry he was, and I ran away. Since then, I have lived with my parents. I am in a state of almost complete stupor. I tried to talk to the girls, but Betsy pushed me away, and how could I blame her? We talked on the phone. This was better. It took me an hour to get ready for this. Now I go to consultations. After that first session, I thought my marriage was over, clearly influenced by Marty's explanation of his feelings. Now I can't figure out how to deal with his anger and grief, and I don't understand how I can ask him for trust again. I don't deserve him. And also Larry. He is dead. He was hit by a car. When my mother told me about this, I was so sorry. When we were in a taxi, he asked me to call him. To tell the truth, I could have called, but he is no longer there. Because of this, I feel another emptiness. If I ever had sex with a man again, I was sure I would remember sex with Larry. Only now, maybe not. I can't get rid of the feeling that if I had refused him, he would still be alive. This doesn't make sense, but it does. I'm completely screwed. Marty again. Everything is getting better at home. School was difficult for the twins, but not impossible. Betsy is still angry, and Linda misses her mother. However, I think Betsy too. They use teleconferencing every evening. Lee looks a little better, but it's hard to tell from the short call time. Our second consultation was similar to the first, except that we each had an individual session before the session together. Dr. Price said, "Have you thought about what could make your reconciliation possible?" Yes, but I couldn't think of anything. Sorry. Do you think if you understood why Lee got involved with Larry, you could work on trusting her? If you knew what caused it, and maybe you could figure out how to stop it? This is stupidity. Pardon the expression. I think she just wanted sex with a guy and thought she could do it without consequences. Isn't that what she said? But I didn't believe her. I believed her about lusting after Larry, but I believe she wanted to get caught. Why? Good question. Maybe ask her. Doc, this won't end with our reconciliation anyway. It is impossible to overcome senseless betrayal. Betrayal because she thought she could get away with it cannot be overcome. What if she wanted to be caught somehow? And this could be the worst of all. This would mean that she simply wanted to leave the family, away from me, away from your life. I wanted drama. You know, if Larry were alive, I think she would be with him now. Our session together began and ended with her asking for forgiveness. I didn't buy it. And even if she truly apologized, even if she could truly explain her actions, I couldn't be with her. It's like being next to a time bomb. I asked the lawyer to serve the papers. Lee, today, I was served with divorce papers. I continue to write in this journal because it may lead to some insight in the future. In our consultation this week, I saw that Marty was less angry. He seemed calmer. This was a sign to me that we were done. I've read about this, about the stages of grief. One of the last is acceptance. Marty accepted the fact that we were getting divorced and that my affair was the end of the marriage. The papers didn't surprise me. I'll have to contact a lawyer. In the last week, I have returned to work. The reception at work from colleagues was icy. Everyone knew that I had become a slut who had ruined family life. Even Brady Bean left me, but it's his loss. He could have succeeded. I bet he'll start soon, since he knows I'm a slut. The lawyer said that I should ask for joint custody of the girls. He said that since Marty already owned the house when we got married, he would stay in it. For several years, he was the most important parent of the house. So I could hope the girls would live week by week if I lived in their school area. Or maybe alternating days off. It's all so depressing. I told the lawyer that I was confessing to cheating in Miami and asked him to hurry up the process. I don't need money from Marty. It's obvious that he doesn't want money from me either. Savings should be divided 50-50 without noise and fuss. So many years down the drain and all I have left are fucking memories. But I did better than Larry. I realized that I didn't feel sorry for him. I know that I am no less to blame, but he also has his share in this. He didn't have to have sex with me. He could have anyone. Why me? I'll never know. Dr. Price suggested that my dancing, open sexual behavior, and my complete inability to hide my infidelity might mean that I wanted to start a new, more exciting life, but I believe this is not true. She said Marty thought I wanted to be caught and then be free. Well, now I'm free and I hate it. I have no appetite. No appetite for sex. I don't go to bars. I've turned down Brady Bean multiple times, and I don't even feel tempted. But it would be so simple. I wonder how long this malaise will last. Marty, today the divorce took place. I received primary custody of the twins, who will live in the same house as always. Lee will have them every other weekend, 2 weeks in the summer, and at Thanksgiving or Christmas. I think they will have 2 gifts for each holiday. At Christmas, maybe more. The final settlement was the same as we had been doing for the past 6 months, as Lee had gotten an apartment about 2 miles away. I told Milt and Ellen they could come over any time, and they do often, and I'm sure they see the girls at Lee's on the weekends. I haven't gone on dates. I have a few acquaintances. There are several divorced women who were in our circle of friends, and 3 I went on dates with. I went to dinner or bowling with them. We moved back into the house for a week without the kids, and we are having sex. The sex is usually very good. I believe this applies to all of us, but I made it clear to all 3 that my recent experiences had scarred me, and that there would be no permanence or exclusivity. They all know what happened, everyone in our society knows, so they understand everything. I still think that 2 people think that someday I will overcome my fearfulness. I don't think so. This is a long journey, and there is no reason to believe that it has an end point. The pain I went through, the pure agony of imagining Lee with that idiot, will never leave me. To this day, when I think about it, she is still just as strong, although I try not to think about it. The twins adapted. Linda is good to Lee, but Betsy is not so easy. She holds grudges for a very long time and is very similar to me. Maybe this is very bad. I didn't discuss this with Lee, only with Ellen. Lee and I don't talk much. She knows that I don't want to talk to her. The less I see of her, the better. Seeing her is very painful. It must be avoided. Ellen says she worries about Lee, who has become something of a recluse. I don't often see her on the street, although we communicate in the same group and live not far from each other. I don't sympathize with her and most likely never will. I never understood why she did it, and I believe she probably doesn't understand it either. The best I can do is to chalk it up to a coincidence of events, and unlikely ones at that. Her vague discontent, the opportunity to go to Miami, and most importantly, meeting Larry. Any 2 of them probably wouldn't have powered it, and then all 3 happened, and paf, the marriage is ruined. Dead end. Golf course scene. 1 year later. Milt Moore played golf on Saturday. He played in the regular 4. However, on this day, one of the group members was replaced by his old school friend. This friend was Fred Cunningham. They have known each other since school. Fred is an electrical engineer. While walking from the 9th platform, they had a personal conversation. They haven't talked about it yet. Of course, not by phone. Milt asked, "How are you coping these days, Fred?" "I'm fine, because I agreed to try it myself." Just followed him all the way from his house. Everything was as you said. He always went to play on a Saturday afternoon if he was in town, and even after he retired he wanted to play. I sympathize with him. I read about it in the Post. I couldn't believe it when he rushed into the street. This was such a big decision for me, and it was accepted so quickly. I just did it. If he hadn't done this, I might not have been able to turn to him. Your horn startled him. But I'm sure you were shocked after that. I know I was. It worked not only perfectly, but even more than perfectly. Marvelous. It's almost as if God intervened to protect Marty. I was certainly shocked to see him die. I called 911 and Marty... Was it Marty? He was right there. Why? I thought, if this works, he should see it for himself, as some kind of closure. He later said he felt cheated. I knew he would kill this guy. Sooner or later, he will do it. He had a gun with him then, and I wanted my granddaughters to have a normal father. Family. I knew that Lee, well, she could do something rash if Marty was arrested, and it would be her fault. But did he deserve to die? Hard to say. But Marty and the girls certainly deserve to live. Lee, too. The 2 old friends never spoke on this topic again. They walked down the aisle next to each other. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.